Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking you through and breaking down my budget that I used when I travelled to New Zealand for a month last February. Oh my gosh, that's gone so quick. Now this isn't a super strict budget. I went over a little bit because we decided to stay a little, well, we didn't decide to stay, we had booked to stay a little bit longer. That was our choice, and so we did go over a little bit more than we wanted to. However, I think it was totally worth it. Don't feel any pressure to follow any budget strictly. A budget is just there to help you and give you some guidelines to how much you want and you need to spend. And I feel like you should always have, allow yourself to have a bit of spontaneity and have a bit of fun. Otherwise, it's just gonna be strict and regimented. If you like that, totally fine, but I suggest leaving some room for spontaneity. Now, if I keep looking down, it's because I actually wrote a blog post. Oh, and as you can tell, my laptop's making noises already. I should really turn my phone on silent as well. Right, okay, we're good. I've got my laptop in front of me because I wrote a blog post last November kind of covering all of this, but I do find that my audience from my blog doesn't always transfer to YouTube and vice versa. If you want to see a bit more in depth, I will link this blog post down below. If you just like a chatty kind of talk through, then please do keep watching. Okay, so just to give you a brief overview, New Zealand is expensive. Don't go in naively thinking that it's all cheap at that side of the earth, but it's really not. It's actually quite expensive. If you've been to Australia, it's a similar sort of pricing to that. It's slightly cheaper than Australia. But if you are traveling around Asia or you've been to Asia, New Zealand is really expensive compared to that. To give you an idea, when we went in last February, and I don't think it's changed that much, the currency is about 2 New Zealand dollars to 1 British pound. Basically just half the price of everything that you see around in shops and like accommodation and stuff, and that's normally how much it is in British pounds. So what I've done is as well, I've broken this budget down into daily costs and monthly costs. Because you may say, I want to go for 2 months, I want to go for a month. And so this kind of gives you an idea of how much you might be spending if you were going for that long. However, I've done it daily as well because some people go for like 6 weeks, so or more. So I've kind of done it so you can work it out yourself. So we're going to start off with flights. This is probably obviously the most expensive part of your trip. Obviously, if you are kind of traveling around locally, like Australia, or you've been in Asia, then it's going to be a little bit cheaper. But when we booked our tickets in November 2016 to fly February 2017, our ticket cost around £460 one way, including baggage and all of that, and that was with a layover in Doha. I have now come to discover that this is the second longest flight in the world. Which, I mean, I could tell you that already from flying it because it was a long flight. The first half of the flight was about 6 hours, the second half was 16 hours, which was the killer, but I slept for most of it, which is quite good for me because I don't normally sleep on flights. Now, we found this deal with STA Travel. If you're looking for like long distance flights and you are under 31, then they have some amazing offers because they basically count you as a youth flyer, even though it's up to 31. So if you're looking for like long distance flights, STA is a really good place to look. If you're kind of traveling on from New Zealand to Asia, which is what we did, flights are normally about 150. That was when we traveled from New Zealand to Bali, with a stopover in Sydney. So I think your average one-way ticket is about £300 to £500, and if you are looking at a return ticket, so back to the UK, you're probably looking about £800. Now we're going to move on to accommodation, probably your second biggest part of your budget. Now accommodation can be pretty pricey in their summer. Their summer is basically our winter. So when we went in February, it was the end of their summer. But you can save money if you look in the right places. So I normally found that hotels and most of the hostels were actually pretty expensive if you were traveling as a couple. If you're traveling by yourself, you can probably get a bunk bed for about £15, which is absolutely amazing. But we found that we would get more for our money by getting like a double room, and the double rooms in some hostels are quite expensive. So after a while we stopped looking at hotels and hostels when we turned our attention to Airbnb, which was probably the best thing we could have done. If we went back, we would definitely travel by camper van, but that's a whole other story. But if you are traveling around by car or by bus, then Airbnb is such a good place to book if you're traveling as a pair or more. So we normally found some really nice places last minute. I had booked about 3 ahead before we got there, and then as we went we essentially booked a couple of days beforehand. We were able to get some really nice rooms for like about £40. That was kind of my maximum budget, which meant that was about £20 each, which is like crazy good for what you're getting. There is also an option of camping, but I'm going to cover that a little bit in the transport section, which is going to come up in a sec. So your average price for a dorm bunk, as I said, is about £15. If you're looking at a double room in an Airbnb, is starting at like £20 each. Your average price, I kind of worked out for a month, if you're kind of averaging the price out, is $450 if you're going in hostels and you're sleeping in dorm beds. If you are staying in double rooms and splitting the cost, it's about £600 a month. So New Zealand's roads are really safe, so make the most of this. Hire out a car, hire out a camper van, and just go off and explore. I find it really gave us the freedom to kind of look around and stop wherever we wanted to, whereas buses, you don't have that freedom as much. However, if you're a solo traveller, you can go by buses or look on Facebook for any backpacking groups, and normally there'll be someone saying, hey, I've got a car and I'm going from here to here, does anyone want to like hitch a ride, sort of thing. So one bus company that I'll quickly link down below is Kiwi Experiences. They are really, really good, and they were the most common like buses that we saw around. As I said, camper vans are a really good way to get around. However, expect to pay quite a bit for a decent sized van with a shower, a toilet and a kitchenette. They're normally quite pricey, but again, if you're traveling in a pair or with more people, then you can kind of split the cost. That is what we would do to save some money in the long run if we went back. Well, not if, when. We've decided that we're going back already. So if you like to camp and just take it slow, then obviously camping and camper vans are the best choice. So as well as staying in Airbnbs, there are loads of free campsites around New Zealand. This is something that I didn't know. If you just type into Google campsites in New Zealand, the first like couple of pages are all the paid campsites. I'm telling you this now, there are free campsites all over New Zealand with amazing facilities and some spectacular views. Like we came across some looking over mountains and we were just like, why did we not know about this? The great thing if you've got a car is that you can just fold down the back seats of your car, buy a cheap mattress or buy it off a traveller, and then just basically camp in your car. That's one thing that we saw quite a lot, as well as camper vans. And also buy tents really easily as well, again from other backpackers or actually buying brand new, and then you can sell it on after your trip. Now, one thing you must not forget if you are travelling by car or if you're travelling by camper van, because this is something we completely underestimated and probably the reason why we went over budget, take into consideration how much petrol is. Normally when you are filling up a full tank of a saloon car, which is what we had, we were filling up about £40 a time, and we were travelling quite a long distance in one go. So that petrol would just go completely, and we tried to split the cost between the two of us, but that is something that really took us over budget, and stupidly I didn't even think of, well, neither of us thought of, but that is something you really should consider. So going back to like your average price for a day of transport. So I had a little look, and for the 1 month unlimited bus pass, it normally works at about £28 a day, just so you can kind of factor that in. If you're looking at a car, it's normally about £40 a day, but I actually split that with my boyfriend, so it was about £20 a day, and then a camper van per day is about 110, and that's one with a proper toilet and a shower. Again, as I said, full tank of petrol is about £40. Average price per month, so 1 month unlimited bus pass with like Kiwi Experience or something like that, it's about £840, so it is quite an investment, but it's an easy way to get around. A car is about £1,200, and a camper van with all the nice toilet and shower is about £3,300. These are all kind of just estimated, but that's just something to consider and factor in when you're deciding how you're going to get around New Zealand. Food and drink. Now, again, you can be really savvy with the food and drink that you buy because it can get quite costly as well. If you can guarantee that you're going to have a fridge and access to cooking equipment for most of your time there, then the best thing to do is to buy a big freezer bag and basically bulk buy loads of food. And then you can cook whenever you want to, you're saving money, you don't have to go out and eat. And it's also quite a good healthy option as well, because we found that like the diet just went to pot when we were in New Zealand. Just went to pot because takeaways are so cheap and just buying snacks is so cheap as well. Whereas if you're buying fresh food, it's quite expensive when you, for instance, for us, we couldn't guarantee we'd have a fridge or cooking equipment. So yeah. However, if this isn't the case and you are not going to have any of those things, then Pack and Save and Countdown are your best friends. I really miss Pack and Save. I was like one of my favourite places. So Pack and Save is a bit like a mixture between a Costco and a normal supermarket. It's essentially like a massive warehouse of food and lots of other stuff, but they also have like fresh food there as well. Like they have a deli, they have like a takeaway counter. It's honestly amazing, I love it. And then Countdown is just like a normal supermarket, but we found that Countdown was slightly more expensive than Pack and Save. So as I said, they've got a huge selection of food and fresh food as well. We actually only ended up cooking a couple of times, so Pack and Save and Countdown were really good for us. However, if you are kind of looking to stay away from takeaways, then obviously you've got restaurants. Some independent restaurants are really reasonable, but you just have to shop around quite a bit. Just saying as well, a little side note, when you're in New Zealand, 2 things you have to try if you have a sweet tooth. Marshmallow fish, they are, I can only find them in New Zealand and they are phenomenal. Essentially just like a pink rose, slight rosy tasting marshmallow with chocolate around the top of it. So nice. And Whittaker's chocolate bars, in my opinion and in our opinion, Chris's as well, are nicer than dairy milk and things like that. Like the different flavours you get, so nice. And I think they're about $4 for like a big bar like that. So good. So average price per day for eating. If you're eating out about once a day, it's normally about £12 per person, which works out average over a month about £350, £360. Obviously, if you're eating out a lot more, then that will factor in. One thing that we found with Airbnbs is that normally, most of the time, they would include breakfast. So that is already one meal of your day done. And it's normally things like, they'll just say like, look in the cupboard and there'll be like cereal and toast. We went to one amazing place where she made breakfast muffins. It was so amazing. So the last thing that you're going to need to think about is activities. People don't normally think about this, but it's so important. And this is basically where you have some fun. If you are heading to New Zealand and you're more of an extreme sports person, I had a little look into the price of that. It does eat quite a bit out of your budget because it is expensive. And we didn't really do these things. I'm not really a bungee jumper person. I would probably skydive, but we were kind of thinking about maybe doing it elsewhere. But if you're looking at skydiving, it starts around £160. Bungee jumping starts from around £100, but there are loads of things all over New Zealand advertising that sort of thing, that you can do your own research into that. So you also need to consider entrance fees for attractions, so kind of put a bit of extra money aside for that. So what I kind of worked out, if you're not including any extreme sports, I normally worked out an average price of about £5 per day. Entrance fees are normally quite good. There are some places that are really hyped up and really expensive. Also, for instance, we did something like Hobbiton, but that was something that we had budgeted in to our budget, and I'd looked up before, so that was about £45, which if you've been to Harry Potter World in the UK is like a similar price. So we had already factored that in. Average price per month, £150. But again, add to that or take off that if you're either extreme sports person or you are not too fussed about certain activities. Okay, so total average price. So I worked out about £65 to £70 is a good daily budget if you are backpacking. Again, if you want to spend some more and just go all out and splash the cash, then add more. And then average monthly cost, which worked out about what we spent, was about £2,100. So that is just a rough little guide and a budget breakdown of what we spent. Obviously, it totally depends on what you're doing, but I really hope this was helpful in some way to you. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see some more videos like this, these budget breakdowns for the places I went to in Asia, then please do let me know, because if this is helpful, I will definitely do some more of these videos. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!